Good day, everybody. How are you? I hope that you are up and at 'em on your way to jump into the middle, so the beginning of a great day, or for those of you, I know some of you who stop by the replay are just getting off work. And so I thank the Lord for you as well. I pray that you're able to get some rest today to be restored and recover from your night of labor. For those of you who are on your way in, whether you're still in traffic or whatever the situation may be, whether you're coming or going, know that you're blessed on all sides. So we're going to get started with today's reading. It's not um, a very long amount of reading, but it's such an important conversation and occurrence for Joseph and his dad to finally, be in a place where they're about to lay eyes on one another. There's been talk around one another, and um, each of them knows that the other is on their way. But we are now about to see the reunion, and it's such a beautiful story of recovering that which was lost, especially for both of them, because you've got uh, Jacob who has believed that his son had been killed, and so he um, has his brother. He has his son back. We've got brothers who didn't know what had become of their brother. They sold him into slave. They sold him to the Ishmaelites, and there you go. Um, possibly believing they would never see him again. And then, of course, you've got Joseph, who sold by his brothers into service and not sure if he would ever see them again as well. Although the Lord's been good to him in Egypt, he's elevated him, he's in a position of power. How many of you know power? Um, I think that movie was Mahogany. It means nothing without the one you love. How many of you know when it gets right down to it, you would take those that you love and hold dear to you over a lot of things? So he now has all that the Lord has blessed him with as a result of that gift of dream interpretation has brought him to this place where, as he told his brothers in last week, goodness, in yesterday's reading, you intended this to be a bad thing. But the Lord has properly positioned me to be able to save us, everybody, because of the famine, the ra'ah, the famine that's in the land. And he's positioned me to be able to help support the family, and not only like provide them with stuff to take with them, but at this point has made a secure place for them within the territory of Egypt. So not only are they getting provision, but they're getting protection because they are now under the covering of Egypt, and all that that would mean. But they have, even within Egypt, they have a secure place that belongs to them, and they're no longer um, just out there on their own as a tribe, but they are under the protective hand of Pharaoh, which at this point is a protective hand, but we know later becomes a very heavy hand under a different, as time goes by and different pharaohs come into position. But we're going to look at some things today, and um, I haven't said this in a while, and so that you're not lost or thrown off as I'm reading, or even put off by the fact that as I'm reading, there are going to be words that I'm just accustomed to because of how we operate in the ministry that I'm a part of, where we're learning Hebrew. There are just certain words that I'm going to read with their Hebrew pronunciation. Not that you have to do that. Not absolutely not necessary. You are an English speaker, And it is perfectly, you already know that. What I want is for you to understand why I am reading in Hebrew. Um, but we will, I just want to let you know that, especially for those who are new or kind of joining in. Um, and so here we go. All right, let's get going because we don't have a lot of reading to do today. So let's go ahead. Today we're looking at, Dad is coming back into the story. And we covered, when we initially got to Jacob, we covered his name in Hebrew is Yaakov. And his name means heel grabber, supplanter. And we know in previous lessons, we've heard it, we saw, we saw how, he supplanted his brother and ended up getting for himself the blessing that is normally ascribed for the firstborn. But those things were already spoken. And so he was literally just walking out what the Lord had already spoken to his mother. And, but his name is Yaakov. And we're also going to be looking at him and we'll be looking at his sons. And we're going to get a little bit of genealogy today. Don't leave on me. Don't get weary. We're gonna work through it. We're gonna push. Look, when it comes to these names, when it comes to proper pronunciation, in all cases, people are doing the best that they are able to. My general, mode of operation is in Hebrew. Some of the long vowel sounds that we have, for them, that long vowel sound is simply you're holding it out. And so when I'm working through the pronounced words, o, u is the vowel sounds that I'm going to use. Great day, Randy Biddle. What's happening, girl? And so we're going to be looking at, so when I get to the section with the names, don't leave on me because I told you everything you're reading, there's a reason that it's included there, whether it's just for historical record, whether it is for reference. But many times when you're reading through those lists of names and it starts to get a little dry for you, like start making the connections about, because some of these names you're going to see at a later point, and I'll show you that as we're going through. But those paragraphs where it seems to get repetitive and it seems to get, for the nerd in you, the nerd in me, I've learned to start looking for connections in those names. And sometimes what you'll learn if you look at those names is it's just this, it's the same name, but not necessarily the same person that you'll see later in the scriptures. Or even like this person that you're reading may be a part of that family or that bloodline, and may just simply have, a similar name to the one that you're accustomed to later on in the story. But as we're reading today, we're going to go forward, but go back, looking at all of the children of Israel. And so we're going to be looking at each of the sons, but what we're also going to be looking at is the sons that were produced from those sons. And you'll see some callbacks to some stuff that we read previously. So you're going to hear the names Leah and Rachel, or Leah and Rachel. Those are Jacob's wives, official wives, sisters. We know he intended to marry one, and the dad slid in through trickery. The supplanter got supplanted. The dad slid in through trickery. The younger sister, I mean, the other sister. I believe Leah to be the older sister because he says, hey, it wouldn't be right for me to give you this other one. She's the younger. Let me give you this other one. And then we'll see Zilpah and Bilhah. And who those ladies are is they are the handmaiden to the daughters, Laban's daughters, that Laban, dear Lord, forgive me. They are the handmaids to those daughters there. And what they are, and they also are sort of concubines, not necessarily wives, but concubines of Jacob's, and they each have two children with him as well. The last two born were Joseph and Benjamin, and we see a special connection with those two sons because that is the wife that he really loved. Clearly, he was involved, we'll say, with each of them. But for PG, it's early in the day. And you may have your kids with you in the car, whatever. We'll stay PG with that, and we will move forward. So Genesis 46, Joseph brings his family to Mitzrayim or Egypt. Genesis 46 and 1 says, so Israel set out with all that he had and came to Beersheba. We talked about Beersheba earlier. A lot has gone down at Beersheba, or you may read it as Beersheba, but it's Beersheba, and offered sacrifices to the Elohim of his father, Yitzchak or Isaac. Elohim spoke to Israel in visions of the night and said, Yaakov, Yaakov, or Jacob, Jacob. And he said, here I am. He said, I am Elohim, the Elohim of your father. Do not be afraid to go down to Mitzrayim or Egypt, for I will make you a great nation there. So he's receiving words of comfort, words of wisdom, words of knowledge from the Father. I will go down with you to Mitzrayim, and I will also surely bring you up again, and Joseph will close your eyes. I don't know how comforting a word of dying is, but he knows he's old. And one of the areas where I think we probably have the most unhealthy relationship in life is our understanding of death. And in these other cultures, and we see that, they would get word that it was time for them to pass, but they would be aware, because of age or whatever the case may be, that it was time to die. And I think one day we really need to have that conversation, because I was listening to talking with a young lady recently, and I've had this conversation with multiple people over the years when it comes down to, the loss of a loved one. And as she's talking, she keeps going, the Lord took my mama, the Lord took my mama, and I just don't understand. And we had to kind of take a pause for the cause for a second and say, look, I know that you may feel that the Lord took, but when we look through the scriptures and we see the Lord taking lives, generally that's going to be preserved for people that are that are extremes in one way or the other. We see in the very early readings, Enoch, he walked with the Lord, and he was, and eventually it says he was no more because the Lord took him. Um, so you're dealing with somebody that's so very close to the Lord that eventually they're just not, the Lord is taking him. And But then you have the other side, which is like people who were drastically evil. We just recently read about and Onan and the Lord's judgment on them, and their lives were taken. Um, that Those are extreme situations. Generally, for most people are in a. It's appointed unto every man once to die. We're like, death is going to happen. We don't that's just something that's going to happen. Now, I do believe that the death can be untimely. I do believe that there's so many times when lives have been stolen by the devil, not the Lord. And so let's just not judge our Father as evil. Many times bodies are, dealing with our bodies deal with the consequences of living in a fallen world, of living in a world where our environment is raggedy, stress and the thing that does to the body, proper nutrition. We eat what we want, drink what we want, live how we want, and then are surprised when, that we live in a world with medical conditions and things like that don't allow us to live out all of our days. And so I pray for those who are hurting and who believe that the Lord took their loved one. And I pray that He relieves your heart to understand that even if that life was stolen by the devil through, murder, accidents, all of those different things, that there is a promise, just as we've read about Joseph and Jacob being reunited. There is a promise that we have of a being reunited. And I know for the moment that may not make it feel better, because let me tell you, I want to pick up my phone and call my mama. I want to pick up my phone and call my granny. I want to come and sit on the porch with her and watch the neighbors and talk to her. Yeah, But the comfort that I do have is that there is a day that is coming when we will be reunited. And I feel that it is similar to the reunion that we're seeing here with Jacob and Joseph. So, if you're dealing with issues of extreme grief, I really want to encourage you. Reach out. I would love an opportunity to pray with you and actually walk with you through it, because the Father took us, like I said, through years back to back to back of very hard losses, and He gave me some strategies that held me together till I'm at a place now where those losses don't break me. My heart isn't broken every day. I miss my granny every day. I miss my mama every day. I miss my auntie every single stinking day. But I miss my daddy. Ooh, we ran across his picture the other day, and it was a picture I hadn't seen in a while, so it brought up some emotion. I miss him every day, but I hold fast to the knowledge that there will come a day when we're going to be in the presence of the Lord, and we'll be reunited in the spirit. So I'll say that. Let me get back to reading. That was a long rabbit trail. I said no rabbit trails today and went down a rabbit trail, but I'm not afraid of rabbit trails. My uncles that used to eat game talked about how good rabbit was. So I'm not worried about rabbit trails. There's some good meat down them trails sometimes. So Genesis 46:5 says, Then Jacob arose from Beersheba, and the sons of Israel carried their father Jacob and their little ones and their wives in the wagons which Pharaoh had sent to carry him. They took their livestock and their property, which they had acquired in the land of Canaan, and came to Egypt. Jacob and all his descendants with him, his sons and his grandsons with him, his daughters and his granddaughters, and all his descendants he brought with him to Mitzrayim. Now these are the names of the sons of Yisrael. Don't zone out on me. Let's go. Sons of Yisrael. And I'll keep it English, so just so we can flow quickly. Sons of Israel, Jacob and his sons who went to Mitzrayim, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn. The sons of Reuben. As I'm reading through, like, pay attention to, are there some of the names, and some of them I'll point out for you that we're going to see them later on. We're going to see members of their tribe or descendants of theirs later on, or actually see some of them very, very active as we're reading on. So Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, the sons of Reuben, Hanach and Palu and Hezron and Carmi, the sons of Shimeon, Jemuel and Jamin and Ohad and Jachin and Zohar and Shaul, the son of a Canaanite woman. And I highlighted that just because I really do. This is my personal commercial, and you can fast forward by 10 seconds. I'm going to say it, and I probably won't talk about it again for some time. But it is really interesting when you hear people talking about pure bloodlines, pure bloodlines, pure bloodlines. I know I'm of the tribe because of pure bloodlines. Here is a man who was a part of the 12, married to a Canaanite woman, has children with a Canaanite woman, but that child is listed right here amongst the children of Israel. There's so much mixture that's happened over the years. Calm down, breathe deep. The blood that you need is the blood of Jesus, the blood of Yeshua. That's the blood you need, okay? So let's keep it moving. The sons of Levi, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. We're definitely going to see them later on. The sons of Yehuda or Judah, we're definitely going to hear them. But I want you to catch something right here. You remember back when we read in the chapter where with the story involving Tamar and Judah, and remembering that, part of the issue that happened was died. The Lord took him because he had judged him as evil. Onan, the Lord took him because the Lord judged him as evil. The scripture very clearly says it wouldn't talk about them just happening to die. Some horrible accident occurred or someone murdered. No. It says the Lord took them. And Onan died, were taken by the Lord. But then we still see their names listed here. And later scriptures, when you read and you see family listings listed, those who died young, things like that, you normally don't see their names still listed. But in this instance, we see and Onan named here because their names were continued through the interaction that happened between Judah and Tamar, where the dad had sons with their mother Tamar, and Perez and Zerah were born. But we see and Onan still listed here. And as it says, but and Onan died in the land of Canaan, and the sons of Perez were Hezron and Hamul. And we mentioned weeks days ago the Hezronites. That's the line that eventually produces Melech David, King David, um, and then ultimately moving forward, Yeshua. Verse 13, the sons of Issachar, Tola and Puvah and Eob and Shimron, the sons of Zebulun, Sered and Elon and Jaleel. These are the sons of Leah, whom she bore to Jacob in Padan Aram. It's an area in Syria. If we were trying to place it somewhere modern, that would be in Syria now, with his daughter Dinah, the one daughter that's mentioned. And remember, we covered her story. All his sons and his daughters numbered 33. The sons of Gad, Ziphion and Haggai, Shuni and Esbon, Eri and Arodi and Areli. The sons of Asher, Imnah and Ishva and Ishvi and Beriah and their sister Sarah. And the sons of Beriah, Heber and Malchiel. These are the sons of Zilpah, the other handmaid, whom Laban gave to his daughter Leah, and she bore to Jacob these 16 persons. The sons of Jacob's wife Rachel, Joseph and Benjamin. Now to Joseph in the land of Egypt were born Manasseh and Ephraim, whom Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, bore to him. And back in previous chapters, we talked about those. I'll put the link to the playlist in the comments later on today, if you want to go back and listen to those. But remember, it was key there to think about those sons being born in Egypt but having Hebrew names. Tells us that, Joseph continued in his worship of Elohim. And so his sons don't have Egyptian names, although there was an Egyptian name assigned to him by Pharaoh. Even in the name that was assigned to him by Pharaoh, there is no other God that he's attributed to, like Asenath, her name. We talked about there was a particular goddess that her name was signifying, but Joseph, there was no God attached to him. His sons, they have Hebrew names as well. So, we there's a lot to be read and discovered in these lists of names. Don't give up. It's important. The sons of Benjamin, Bela and Becher and Ashbel, Gera and Naam and Ahi, Rosh, Muppim and Huppim and Ard. I wonder if Muppim and Huppim were twins. That's an interesting combination there. These are the sons of Rachel who were born to Jacob. There were 14 persons in all. So the sons of Dan, Husham. The sons of Naphtali, Jaziel and Guni and Jazer and Shiliam. These are the sons of Bilhah, whom Laban gave to his daughter Rachel, and she bore these to Jacob. There were 7 persons in all. All the persons belonging to Jacob who came to Mitzrayim, his direct descendants, not including the wives of Jacob's sons, were 66 persons in all. And the sons of Joseph who were born to him in Egypt were 2. All the persons of the house of Jacob who came to Egypt were 70. So now we're getting to the tearjerker. Jacob and Joseph are reunited. Verse 28 says, now he sent Judah before him to Joseph to point out the way before him to Goshen, and they came into the land of Goshen. Joseph prepared his chariot and went up to Goshen to meet his father, Yisrael. As soon as he appeared before him, he fell on his neck and wept on his neck a long time. Now, a thing that I want to look at probably will be my meditation points for today is there's a back and forth happening here, if you've noticed, with Jacob. There's times when he's called Jacob. There's times when he's called Israel. And I think that's purposeful, and I think it's important. And some years ago, I remember our apostle sharing some revelation, not an interpretation, a revelation. that there are times that it's significant when he's called Israel, and it's significant when he's called Jacob, because there's a different aspect of his character being called upon in each of those instances. So I'll just leave that there. But again, I told you my goal is to provoke you to study, read for the details, pay attention to the important matters that we can sometimes gloss over. Get you some meditation points for the day. It says, then Israel said to Joseph, now let me die, since I have seen your face that you are still alive. All I've ever wanted in this life was to see my son, and I've seen my son. Look, I can go on. Joseph said to his brothers and to his father's household, I will go up and tell Pharaoh and will say to him, my brothers and my father's household who were in the land of Canaan have come to me. And the men are shepherds, for they have been keepers of livestock, and they have brought their flocks and their herds and all that they have. And if we'll continue to pay close attention right here, Joseph is continuing to flow in wisdom, and he's offering his brothers instruction on what to do when they are encountered. And here's the explanation. When Pharaoh calls you and says, what is your occupation? You shall say, your servants have been keepers of livestock from our youth, even until now, both we and our fathers, that you may live in the land of Goshen, for every shepherd is loathsome to the Egyptians. There's extreme wisdom in with the instruction that he's given them, because one of the things that's going to happen is the people of Egypt are not going to be up there messing around in Goshen, simply because they don't fool with shepherds, those that handle livestock. They're not going to deal. They choose not to deal with you. And because of that, going up there, let them know that's what you're doing. And you'll be able to dwell in your area without the interference of Egypt. And that, because that interference of Egypt is also going to do what? Bring the ways of Egypt to your area. But in Goshen, if we make it clear that that's where those that work with livestock, people that the Egyptians despise, if we make it clear that, hey, that's all that's up there, so you can stay on from up there, that allows them the opportunity to live in Goshen, live in their area without the interference of Egypt, and of course, as I said, bringing in the ways of Egypt. So Lord is continuing to give him wisdom and in the interactions and things that happen. So um I think that's going to wrap us up for today. Yes, it is. That wraps us up for today. And as I've told you, my goal is to provoke you to read. My goal is to provoke you to pay attention to those details that maybe sometimes we just gloss over as we're reading. I think they tell us a whole lot. Many times. Sometimes it's just a detail. Sometimes it is just this one said, then this one said. But ultimately, the goal is to get you to a point of something. One of the things that I love when I'm looking at those names is, like, I think that so many times it's said over people of color that we don't have culture, we don't know our history, we don't know where we're from. And I say we know more of our history than we really believe that we do. But what we don't do is keep good record of our history. Um, if you're the person who knows the connections in your family and how people are related and all of those things, it's going to be really helpful to keep those records. And that's one thing that I really do appreciate about their culture, is in their culture, they keep meticulous record of who was married to who, what kind of work the family did. Those in that Hebrew culture, I'll never forget. Many years ago, a young lady who was a part of my team shared a book with me of her family, and it was work that one of her cousins had done, and they went back hundreds of years through family records, and actually traveled abroad to find some of those records. And but they kept good record of those family lines, so that you knew how people were connected to one another. And it was really, really good information. And so when people tell you that you don't know your history, you don't know, you do know your history. You know where you came from. You know where you're going, because you belong to the Lord. But also, it's important, I believe, to have that foundation, to have that place of establishment, to know that you're not just in a constant wandering state, a constant other state, a constant not belonging state. You do have your family has history, your family has roots, and I want to encourage you to just keep record of that for yourself. Ground yourself. Don't live as a people who don't have a history. You do have history. Your history knowledge may only go back as far as your mom and your dad, but start there. I promise you, generations from now will appreciate it. Man, if we had a handwritten note from my grandmother's grandmother, we know their names, now because we've, done some work with ancestry and found some good records, and we have those records kept. But we only have those records because it was written down somewhere. So I want to encourage you to do that. But also, I want to encourage you to spend some time reading through these scriptures on your own time, and looking for the things that are to be revealed specifically to you. We've seen in today's stories about reunion. This entire set of scriptures has been about family issues. What things do you need? Do you have up in prayer before the Lord? About your concerning your family. Many times, I think we just experience family issues and tolerate family issues, but don't necessarily consider those things in prayer and ask the Lord to work on them. But what are those things? And not to dwell on them to bring you down or take you back into a bad headspace, but to consider them for the sake of bringing you into a good space where you allow the Lord to take those things off of your heart that need to be lifted. Those things that need to be worked through. Um, so that's it. Join us tomorrow. We'll be picking up in the 47th chapter of Genesis. Jacob's family settles in Goshen. So it's getting interestinger and interestinger. I know those are not words. I know the proper way is more interesting as we go, but I prefer interestinger. Okay. So we will pick up with Genesis 47 tomorrow. For those who have joined and for those who will watch the replay, thank you for your time and attention. Um, we hope to see you all if the Lord allows. We'll be here, the Lord allows, and the creek don't rise. We'll be here tomorrow, uh, aiming to find the right time slot, um, but so that we can just be even more consistent, offering the Lord the best that's available that we can. But we'll be in Genesis 47 tomorrow. Jacob's family settles in Goshen. Talk to you later. Have an amazing day. As always, I speak completion into the work that you're doing. I stand in agreement with you for a good end to lingering issues, for good news from the Northeast, West, and South, a good report. We're going to believe the report of the Lord concerning everything that you've got up before Him. What He says about it is what the actual answer is. I don't care what the doctor told you. I don't care what the job told you. I don't care what your kids and your husband told you. What the Lord said is what it's going to be. And so I stand in agreement with you for Elohim's good and perfect will for you and your family. Go forth, have an amazing day, accomplish some things, complete some things. I'm about to go complete some things because I've got some overdue assignments for work. So have a wonderful day. Bye.